Lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
For some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Is it live? Is it live?
Live from Mike Anderson's. Jimmy Ott, Max Gotro, Charlie with the day off today. Be back tomorrow. So we're live here. Mike Anderson's getting ready for Oyster Night. Oysters on the half shell every Tuesday night starting at 5 p.m. are half price. And now we have boiled crawfish as well. Boiled crawfish nightly starting at 5 p.m. So every day this week starting at 5 p.m. boiled crawfish here at Mike Anderson. So we got wine Wednesdays, half off all bottles of wine on our wine list every Wednesday, and then Thursday it's half off of char grilled oysters on Thursdays as well. So always a good time in here. All of those specials. We got wine and beer specials as well this evening for Tuesday night, our oyster night here at Mike Anderson's. So. Andy Isko with us at the bottom of the hour. So from theologicalapproach.com, veteran handicapper out of Las Vegas. And we'll ask you about some in-game and some injuries and, things like that. Revenge type of spots. A reverse revenge spot. Get beat at home. Got a little extra in a tank when you make that trip there. BYU pulled off the upset after getting beat by at home in Provo by 11 points. Controversial. The Arizona fans knew, and I thought it was a phantom call. I thought it was a totally blown call. They showed the replay. He didn't touch him. It was just an anticipated call at the toughest of spots. The Arizona fans, of course, they got a little offensive. With their chants toward the toward the school of the Church of the Latter-day Saints. So just can't that's the way it goes. So anyway, so they got robbed there, and then last night, what was set up to be a great game, but it's just. It was missing, and Otterlocks was released on the internet yesterday. But I made a point to say that if McMillan is out, he's averaging 15 points a game. He's the second leading scorer. He was out in the game on Saturday, an easy win for Texas Tech. It's a scratch. And the line went from 1.5 to 4.5 Houston favorite because not just was McMillan out at 15.1 a game, but Williams was out as well at 14.9. 30 combined points. And the line went from 1.5 to 4.5, so it's a scratch, as I indicated. And you can't get this information confirmed until about 45 minutes to an hour beforehand. Rotowire.com is the best site for that. But a big effort by Texas Tech. Was close, but kind of in game, you could see that this one was going to be too much. They shot less than 30% from the floor last night, did Texas Tech, because they had one guy to stop in Toppin, and he's their leading scorer at 17 a game. But without these two guys, it was poor quality of shots throughout the evening for Texas Tech. They hustled their butts off. They out-rebounded, even shooting so much weaker than Houston. Houston shot just under 50%. Texas Tech shot under 30%. But they out-rebounded Houston, who is great on the glass, 36-30, and out-rebounded on the offensive glass, 15-5, triple. So that's a rarity. We're going to ask Rob Dowser, who's with us from the Field of 68 at noon today, about his opinion on Houston, because it seems like they got a little bit more offensive firepower, but not quite as strong defensively. And we know that Kelvin Sampson has, the practices are tough. They're brutal. They put the lid on the basket so they can practice the ball coming off, with the rebound and anticipate with offensive rebounds. They're as hard-nosed as anybody. Their team culture, sometimes that's overused, in the media a lot. Oh, it's a distinct team culture. They're hard-nosed, but it seems like they got a little bit more firepower. They shoot about 40% from three for the season, and they shot 40% from three last night. I want to say they shot 50% from three. They sure did, 50% from three. So Houston a win over Texas Tech last night. Texas Tech without 30 points. A win over Iowa State Saturday. Iowa State was down 31 points with their top two scorers. So I'm feeling a little cheated as we're trying to get a better evaluation of the third choice to win it all at plus 750, the Houston Cougars. Auburn's favored at plus 360. Duke is second choice at plus 370. Basically co-favorites in the odds. But Houston is third choice, and I'm just wondering, I think we've gotten a better evaluation of Florida than we have of Houston to this point. So kind of cheated a little bit on those two games. So Tuesday's games last night, you had 4 games with the Power 5 games last night. Usually we just have 2. But the first one, the first team out, that's right, the first 4 out, Joe Lenardi's bracketology, and that first team out, North Carolina, minus 3.5, all road favorites last night in the 4 games. Well, no defense in this one. 96-85. Florida State shot 54% from. How about this one, Max? You shoot 54% from the floor, 50% from three, 75% from free throw line. Lose at home by double digits.
That doesn't
you
matter.
aren't playing a lick. And it seems like Leonard Hamilton, nice friendly exchange, sort of after the game with he and Hubert Davis. Maybe a respectful exchange. He had Hamilton laughing a little bit, but I just don't. It's just. I mean, when they're not playing any defense, and even in a win, a key win, because they were only 3.5-point favorites, Florida State. How do you shoot that kind of number? I mean, you ain't playing Max, you don't have to see 1 second of this to know they were not exactly committed on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, that's a rare stat when you get to that one. So North Carolina avoids a bad loss. They get a solid win, nothing great. But Florida State, it looks like they have phoned it in on the defensive end. So you got one game with no defense. The other game in the Big Ten, which was a very good game, the tightest game of the night, but depending on what's your preference as far as style of game that you like. You saw no defense in the North Carolina-Florida State game. You saw no offense in the Michigan-Nebraska game. Max, both teams shot under 30% from the floor.
I saw that final score. I had to go back in the box score to see.
It's the first time that Michigan, I forget, it's like, I don't know, 35. I forget exactly what they said. Robbie Hummel, the former Purdue standout, was doing it. First time Michigan's won a game scoring less than 50 points in forever. And Nebraska, who's the last 4 in right now, they are just straggling at not a terrible loss, but got to try and win that one. Michigan went off as a 1.5-point favorite. Nebraska got the ball down 1 with about 12 seconds to go. And their one guy that was hot last night, Williams, who was at 26 points. He's a 90% free throw shooter. Taking the ball to the goal? Nope. He gives it up for a rush 3. It misses. Michigan gets the rebound, hits 2 free throws to cover the spread. So, man, you got to try and take it to the rim and maybe get one of those phantom calls like BYU did against Arizona there. So Nebraska last 4 in. So, would you rather watch? No offense or no defense?
Oh, shoot. Well, this is kind of the NBA argument, right? They said the NBA.
In football, well, you like watching, 51-48. I remember you talking about one game. Yeah, lots of excitement. It was too much. It was no defense. You rather 9-6 in Tuscaloosa, or you rather LSU winning, 51-48 or something.
But are they
like
missing open shots? Or are they just?
Oh, they missed. When you shoot under 30%, you miss everything.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't.
It was good defense, but no. It was. What did I describe? I didn't say it was sticky defense. It was bad offense.
No, that is a little frustrating. But hey, look, Michigan. They're grinding out. They're grinding out these games, and it's been a great job. Coaching matters, as we've discussed quite a bit this year, and they've really.
You think they're well coached?
I think so. Yeah, Michigan.
I think they got a good program coach. I want to ask Douster about that, because having Wolf run the point as a point center, where he's got a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, and he is their guy. They give him the ball. He takes the ball up the court. They give it to him in a half-court set. Even though he's 7 feet tall and about 350 pounds, he is running their offense. And to have a 1-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio slightly above, that ain't good. So I'm going to ask him about that, because it's gotten better. He did have his best night, but he had more turnovers than assists last night in the win. So I don't know. Maybe they don't have a guy that another guard. I can't tell, because they don't let him try. I mean, when you watch Michigan play, it jumps out at you. It's an extreme. Now, he likes to pass, and he can pull off some good passes, but those numbers, especially all the Renowins that you played, those are not good numbers. And that's as weak of, I mean, tell me a starting point guard for a team that's projected in the tournament that has that bad of an assist-to-turnover ratio.
Yeah, I guess, they've got 2 centers as their leading scorers, right? So part of it's just probably personnel. He's a little bit of got a unique roster for somebody who's, top 20 in the country. I mean, they're 2 centers, they're 2 bigs, are scoring more than anybody. Trey Donaldson's their other guard. I mean, looking at him, he's got 3.9 assists, 2.3 turnovers. So maybe they can let him handle the ball a little bit more. But, without looking at it, I just trust Dusty May. I mean, this is his first year. Maybe, look, we know that you can turn a team around very quickly now in college basketball with the portal and whatnot, but maybe this just isn't quite the roster that he really wants in his first year.
How much
there.
have you watched Michigan this year?
Little bit.
Not
little
too
bit.
much.
Play a little Michigan State. But Michigan State.
We'll ask Douster.
Yeah.
These guys are in deep. It's and I trust. I will trust him, and I've seen him coach his team. Now where would he be if they never came back and stole that game in the first round against Memphis? Because they wouldn't have won the next 3 games on their way to Houston for that Final Four, and they had that great game against Miami in the semifinal. Where would he be? It'd be interesting, but he. It is. I trust him in the fact that, I mean, he can do some things, so they're maybe working on developing it and getting better over the course of the season with those pieces, because if it does get right, they can provide something that just nobody else sees. I mean, nobody else has a 7-foot, 350-pound point guard. I mean, I don't know exactly what he's listed, but he's a big old dude. He ain't a string bean.
7 foot 250.
250. There is no way he is 250. He is above 3 bills. That dude is big, man. He is a big old boy. But anyway, we'll talk to Douster about that later on. And then Kansas. And here you go, Max. Getting the right side of the number. It's tricky. We try and people, and some of our guests may say, oh, yeah, you got to get the right side. Well, it's just not that simple. And there are guys that are better. The guy I trust that he's getting, that's in the NFL, which he specializes in, Randy McKay. He's really good at getting good numbers, but who knows that where these numbers are going some of the times. And it's tricky. And so it's not just, it's easier said than done. But this line went from 6.5 to 7, 7.5 to 6.5, 6.5 to 7.5, back and forth a little bit. Of course, it falls 7. Kansas hits 1 of 2 free throws with just 22 seconds left to put it on 7. Colorado missed a 3, and they let it dribble it out. Hunter Dickinson gets a lot of criticism. Where would they be without this guy? No. Hunter Dickinson, 32 and 13. He's shooting 54% from the field for the season. I mean, he draws the ire of a lot of fans. He's been paid a lot. I get it, but there have been a lot of guys that are paid that aren't nearly as productive as Hunter Dickinson. But the preseason number 1 team in college basketball, number 6 seed right now. And
he got 2 of the Colorado bigs in foul trouble pretty early in this game, which was really helpful for them. That kind of changed this game a little bit. And, yeah, look, Dickinson, he does draw the ire. But, we talked to Douster, Greg Waddell, kind of the same thing. They kind of thought it was okay that Michigan moved on from Dickinson, that they let him move on to Kansas. But at the end of the day, what would Kansas be without him? I don't know what kind of team they'd be. without Hunter Dickinson.
This is it's a Self after the the back-to-back losses to Utah and BYU says we just need to get these guys away from each other. Not exactly what you want to hear publicly in stretch time for your college basketball season. And we hadn't touched on the NBA a ton, but my goodness, how could you not notice last night's game? Whenever somebody gives you a bad beat, and you hear it's the NBA. Oh man, this team was up. It's the NBA. And then you have Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City versus the field to win the Western Conference. They are minus 110, minus money to win the Western Conference. So far ahead of everybody as the number one overall seed. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he is minus 500. Going to put up $5 to win $1 that he's going to win the MVP of the league. He has such a big move. 121 to 105, went off 11.5 with 3:55 to go. 121 to 105. They don't score a point the rest of the way. The T-Wolves outscore Oklahoma City 16 to zip to force overtime, and then the Timberwolves win it 131 to 128. Sure, you'd like to have a ticket on the T-Wolves when they were down 16. My goodness, that is as improbable as it gets.
Yeah, Naz Reid, 22 and 11 for him. He played 41 minutes, and apparently he is going to be looking. I think he's going to decline his contract. He's going to probably become a free agent this year. So I'm curious to see what kind of market he has because Timberwolves fans love him, and he had a big game last night against the Thunder. Interesting, Jimmy, the Thunder, you sort of referenced Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being a clear favorite to win MVP. I know that voters are sentimental. They want to just kind of level things out. You get the voter fatigue. But Jokic is maybe having one of his best seasons of his career. Is there any value there?
I'll grant it. I said that Josh Allen was going to win the MVP this year. He would get it. But this was Lamar Jackson's best year, and he already won 2. The
voting was close. I just think Jokic, what is he right now? 5-1 to win MVP. He is playing outstanding. I know SGA is putting up great numbers, and the Thunder are certainly better as a team. That's kind of what the NBA really looks at. I'm
certainly not going to lay 5-1 on to win it. Joker's plus 350 right now. So
statistically, he's having maybe his best season, Jokic, and it's just that they're not leading the West is the big difference there, and that he's won it already a few
times.
And
see who won the MVP when Jordan didn't get it. Okay? So these voters there was Michael Jordan fatigue. Okay? So they don't, and part of it is they want to look back at part of legacy, and you have to handicap the voters a lot of time. And I was telling Charlie before, I said, man, they're giving it to Allen. Who do you think's better between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson? To me, Josh Allen. Okay? Well, I can't have this guy have 3 and this guy has 0. There's no way. There's just no way. And they made sure of that. And so it's funny that Jackson didn't attend the awards down in New Orleans on that, I think it was a Thursday night, down at the honors.
The NFL honors.
The NFL honors show. So anyway, but I'm not playing any of them. That straw poll, if you want to try and get that last knockout, that thing has been as accurate as hell. So, we got Joker at even a little plus money when that straw poll came out a couple of years ago. We're live here at Mike Anderson's on Lee, just off of Nicholson. It's Oyster Night tonight. Oyster Night tonight and every Tuesday night. Half off raw oysters starting at 5 p.m. Here. Michael's shucking away as we speak. Don't forget, we also now have Crawfish Daily starting at 5 p.m. Boiled crawfish, 5 p.m. on every day here at Mike Anderson's on Lee, just off of Nicholson. Live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We'd have these conversations all for years and years. What's a real sport? Is golf a real sport? Well, man, what are we doing with women's basketball, ladies' basketball? We know the popularity recently it's gotten. And then, you got one last night. when you score 20 points, what did Georgia score last night? They had single-digit quarters, 3 of the quarters last night. It was unbelievable last night. Here, Texas 57, Georgia 26. 11-5 at the end of one. It was 20-16 at the end of the first half.
23-4 in the fourth quarter. They were outscored.
Yeah, I mean this was 10 points in the second half, 6 and 4. So Georgia scored 5, 6, and 4.
Yeah, this kind of still shows you the back end of the women's game is still, I
mean, that's Georgia.
the
That's an
top
athletic department like Georgia.
Sure.
I mean, it might be like LSU men's basketball. Like
Yeah,
they might be at the bottom of the
they're
list.
2-12 in the conference. Yeah.
Okay, so they might be the bottom of for budget support, whatever. But it's still an athletic department that they're not going to throw. I mean, if
They're not playing Campbell.
if Nichols or somebody like that, had this or something like that. But I mean, it's the University of
Conference
Georgia.
play, yeah, that's pretty staggering. I missed that one last night. Texas, I know, is now number 1, but wow, yeah. Look, the women's game, it's gotten a lot better in that there's a little bit more in terms of. I think it used to be sort of a top 4, top 5.
Oh,
now it's a bit more of a top 10.
No, it used to be a top
15,
2,
right? Yeah,
it used to be Tennessee and UConn. And then,
So that-
and then Mulkey and Baylor got a couple.
That's expanded. There's
Right.
still a drop off at some point.
No,
And
the
that's-
competitive balance, it's getting better, but it's got a ways to go.
people
but-
are buying in. I mean, there are teams that were not bought in to women's basketball that are now, and that's good. But Georgia, I guess, is not there yet.
It's funny, though, but the thing about the women's game, sometimes they play at a faster pace than the men's game.
The women's game can be better to watch.
I mean,
sometimes.
but this couldn't have been good. Now, I didn't see it, but damn. I mean, let me see what they shot last night. Let's see. Georgia shot
30%.
30%. That seems high.
Well,
huh?
it was rebounding. It was turnovers. They had 25 turnovers and got out-rebounded 40-23. So that's the difference. They just didn't have possessions.
I had 20 turnovers. You said 25.
I'm looking at 25 here. In this
Okay,
box
I'm
score,
looking at a different.
that would make sense considering they only got 36 shots off. Texas.
Yeah, so that's not like you had a men's game that they both shot worse.
Yeah, the 30%.
And in Michigan, Nebraska,
respectable. They were 2 for 6 from beyond the
I'd
arc.
have missed that.
Yeah.
I would have missed that. Now, 2 trips to the free throw line's not real good. Probably attack the basket a little bit better than that. Huh?
Could do that. Yes, for sure.
So I mean, but
Come on, Georgia, you got to pick it up. We got to invest. We're getting on the men's team around here for not investing. Georgia, we got to invest in the women's basketball game.
I did hear somebody talk about the men's team because yesterday they knew Heisel and his guests. They didn't even know that that it became public that they're giving. Not only are they giving McMahon another year, but they're going to increase his they call it NIL budget, but his player budget. And I heard some guests last night. They talked about it too, and they were talking about the LSU Tennessee matchup, and they were talking about that he was. So it's funny. Some pay attention, some don't. That's where you are right now. Max, you've been to every game. It's Tennessee. It's one of those spots. It's an exhale spot for them. Florida did. I mean, they built a 14-point lead, then got outscored by 22, and then LSU answered with a 22. But, it is Tennessee. Tennessee can go in these scoring droughts. We know about it. Can LSU kind of hang around and be in position to steal one?
I think so, just because this is a sandwich spot. We talked about this before with Auburn when they came to Baton Rouge, and ultimately they covered. Florida ended up covering. After all that, LSU, having the lead at one point, they ended up covering regardless. But they're coming off a win at top 10 Texas A&M. Letdown spot in Baton Rouge this weekend. They host Alabama, a big team. So it is a scheduling spot, no doubt, for Tennessee. Look, what I want to see from LSU, the season's pretty much lost. You're not going to get a whole lot from it. There's a couple players that you're looking at that will be back next year, and with respect to Cam Carter, who's had an incredible season, and I want to shoot I want him to shoot more, and he deserves his flowers, no doubt. But I want to see the future. And Robert Miller's a player who finally showed up in the stat sheet a little bit more against Florida, and he's been slowly progressing throughout the season. When he started the season, I think he started in the opening lineup in the very first game. They wanted him to be ready, and he just wasn't. He was a little lost on the floor, hasn't really filled out his frame, but he's done a good job of that. He already looks better. He's grown throughout conference play, and even when he doesn't have these big games in the box score, he is much more comfortable in his role now. And so, we'll see him compete a little bit. We've talked a little bit about how LSU's recruited at a high level relative to what they've had, right? They've had top 20 classes 3 of the 4 years of McMahon, but they haven't quite panned out. Maybe Robert Miller will be one of these guys who does pan out, because we're starting to see signs that he is progressing. He's built his frame. He's added some weight, and he looks more comfortable out there in SEC play, where he's going up against, look, Florida was one of his best games of his career. Florida's got plenty of size. That's not a team that he's just going to bully. And he did a pretty job.
Two of his more productive games recently on this little run, and there's no doubt he's shown, is against some quality bigs. We know Florida's got a rotate. Look, they had a little injury with their bigs. Both of those guys are back. Okay, Big Z for Arkansas is one of the hottest bigs in the league right now. It's why Arkansas has won, 5 of their last 9 and covered 7 straight. Talking about Arkansas, if you had the right number against Texas A&M. So, no, he has shown. But be careful when you talk about they've recruited well. Well, no, they haven't. Okay, they've had some decent recruiting rankings.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
they haven't fulfilled.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a guy who will fulfill his ranking, his stars, 4-star.
Because if you ask me, the biggest problem with LSU basketball is roster. And well, you're not. How do you get you recruited? And they have not recruited well.
I just hope that Miller can maybe be a guy who comes in next year if they're going to actually bring in some more.
He's a piece. He's got some connections. His legacy here. There's reasons for him to stay here. They'll have to give him some of that budget. That's obvious, and he can. I think in the off season, if he puts the time in, get a little bit bigger and stronger, because he's doing a lot of his work. But he's got a repertoire of moves. As Charlie has been pointing out, him shining a little bit. You didn't answer the question though, that they could maybe hang around.
Plus 10.5. I'll do it. I'll take the 10.5 tonight, just because of the spot for Tennessee. I'm not saying LSU's going to win the game, but I think it could be competitive. It'll be a late game in the PMAC. I don't really know what the crowd will look like, but I think they can hang around.
Don't forget our friends at K&M Automotive, certified technicians committed to doing the job well done. Jason Payne's put together a great staff over at K&M Automotive. Segan and Perkins, right across from Ambrosia Bakery. AC repair, alignment, brakes, domestic cars and trucks, electrical services, electronic services, Jimmy, you name it, heating and cooling services. That engine light comes on. You don't know what it is, bring it in. We'll find out what's going on with you. We can provide towing if you need so as well. Tires, you name it, at K&M Automotive. They're open 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. It's the only place I take my vehicle, K&M Automotive. Live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's. Oyster night tonight, 50% off all oysters on the half shell, starting at 5 p.m. at Mike Anderson's. Live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Heading out to Las Vegas, deep in the desert, lives one man. One man of many sports bets. The one and only Andy Isco.
My man Andy Isco joins us right now from Las Vegas. Andy, how are you?
I'm doing fine. Jimmy, how have you been?
Doing great, man. Me and Max here. Charlie has the day off. He'll be back with us tomorrow. Andy, I'm thinking about, I'm seeing that Oklahoma City collapse last night, up 16 with just under 4 minutes to go. Minnesota outscores the team it's basically even money to win the Western Conference, 16-0, and then beats them in overtime. And and then the other ones last night, key injuries. Houston, the last 2 games in college basketball, they went against a team and that had their second and third leading scorers out, McMillan and Williams, combining for 30 a game. That moved the line from 1.5 to 4.5. They went against Iowa State on Saturday. that line went from 7.5 to 13.5. And so, they at Iowa State, that was 31 points a game, their top two scores. Just philosophically, I know it's case by case a lot, but do you go against the teams that are, that are minus their key players, or do you take advantage? Because it worked both ways in these two Houston games. It was too much of an adjustment. Last night, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, well, again, as you mentioned, it's a case-by-case basis. It depends upon the depth of the team that's without the key players. It's also got to do with the quality of the opponent. Maybe a lot of the guys who are replacing the guys who are injured are better than most of the players on the team that they're facing. So it's really an individual case-by-case. When you're looking at a lot of the strong teams, like I liked Houston last night anyway. I played them early in the day at 1.5 because they had lost to Texas Tech in their previous matchup this year, and being such a highly ranked team, I've never liked to see teams going 0-2 against a conference foe if you're considered to be a contender. And so I thought that was a big spot for Houston. They were able to take advantage and get the win. But it's one of those things that you really have to. I place some emphasis on it, but with so many games on the board to choose from, if you have any concerns, just go on to another game.
This is why I took, I had bet Texas Tech pregame plus 4.5. I bought it to 5. But then when I had a chance to take minus 1.5, I took it because the course of the game. Max, you know how many players Texas Tech played last night?
6.
Yeah, 6. I mean, that's a lot of stress on your starting 5, especially – I don't know how much you watch, but it was a highly competitive game. I mean, that play. Yeah. I will tell you this. I talked about Iowa State's home court. Talking about Auburn right now. That Lubbock is as strong. Even in a loss last night, that place is, man, they are into the game. Mahomes and his wife were courtside last night. But, I mean, they played hard. They offensive rebounds 15-5. To Houston, who, I mean, that's their specialty. So it would just look like it was a matter of time for them to wear down. And the quality of shots, it seemed like it was a matter of time.
Yeah, well, again, when you've got only 6 players playing, you're going to feel the effects in the last 5-6 minutes of the game. To their credit, they made a little bit of a run, but Houston then answered that run and ended up winning the game. What was it, by 6-7 points? I think it was that. That's the final margin. What's that?
They won by 8.
Yeah, 69-61, something like that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And Texas Tech has had a very fine season. They were 3 games, I think now 4 games behind Houston, but they were in second place. And I think they're still currently in second place unless there's a tie there. But nonetheless, Tech has been playing very solid ball all year, but they've been overshadowed by the great play of Houston.
There you go. And the 5, I mean, it was a 3-point attempt pretty much at the buzzer that hit the rim 3. Double rim, glass, rim, off. I mean, it was one of those last night. So anything at tonight's card that catches your attention, Andy?
A couple of them. I'm looking at that, I guess it's an early starting game, part of the early rotation that starts, I guess, at 6 p.m. your time. Minnesota laying, I think it's 2.5 now at home to Northwestern. Open 3, came down a little bit. I like the way Minnesota has been playing of late. They went out to the West Coast. They swept USC and UCLA. Then came home last Thursday, and understandably, maybe a little bit overexcited by that sweep on the West Coast, and they lost to Penn State. They've been off since then. But they've been playing very well, and Northwestern, of course, is coming off of that 21-point win at Ohio State, so that could be a little bit of a letdown situation for them. These teams are fighting through to get into the conference tournament, and they're both right on the borderline right now of not making it in. I think Minnesota they have a 1-game edge. I'm not quite positive on that, but I know it's really, really close, and the number of games remaining are down. So I like this Minnesota team that's been playing some of its better basketball over the last few weeks of Big Ten play. So that's one that I'm looking at tonight.
Max, how about Minnesota? So who's the hottest team in the Big Ten right now?
Michigan State's playing
Absolutely,
well.
it's
Yeah.
Michigan State. I mean, they won at Illinois, they won at Michigan, they beat Purdue. Okay, their last 3 games. I mean, that's the hottest team. How did their trip to LA go?
Not great.
They got swept.
Not great.
Minnesota just went and swept that trip.
Yeah.
I mean, and so
As 8 and 11-point dogs, they won both the games.
down with in the UCLA game, Andy, like 16 points, came all the way back and won it. Cronin had one of his meltdowns post-game interview.
Yeah, if you look at Minnesota, they're 9-16-2 against the spread, but so much of those losses were, in 2024. They had one cover in the entire, 2024 slate. The turn of the year, since the new year in conference play, they've done much, much better.
In Northwestern,
that's one of the things I look at as we get close to tournament time is how have teams played since January 1, when the schedule is largely it's largely conference, almost 90% of it, sometimes even 100%. And you go back and take a look at who they played in the pre-conference schedule, and sometimes they're laying 27 points against a very, very weak school, and they win by 22. That it doesn't really tell you all that much. And again, in some of these big matchups, were those teams competitive in losses? I look more at losses and how competitive teams were in losses than I do at wins.
Well, Northwestern's been very competitive in their losses. Yep. So they've lost 7 of 10. Now, they've had some injuries, but they have been very competitive. All of the losses are by single digits. So they are in every game. They're slowing it down. The outlier was their last win at Ohio State, where they're 9.5-point dogs. They win by 21. So they have really – it's a pretty good, solid coaching job. But Collins, that losing such key piece, because second leading scorer, led him in rebounds, assists, steals. I mean, that's Northwestern's roster can't afford a blow like that, but they have, and they've been very competitive.
No, exactly. And normally I might look to have made a play, except for 3 things really. Number one, the spot's not good for them, even though they've had almost a week of rest. Number two, the line isn't large enough to really take the points on the road, where basically, 2.5, 3. You're pretty much looking for a team to win. I mean, it could be a 1 or 2 point game, but also number 3, the spot for Minnesota coming off of that road trip and then putting in not an unexpected effort against Penn State. I mean, it was a 9-point game, but number one, the additional thing is after that success on the West Coast, they're coming into this game. An important game for them as far as the standings are concerned, off a home loss, and then they go on the road to Nebraska in their next game.
Andy, outside of handicapping, somebody will report that an opponent privately proposed a ban of the tush push. What's your thoughts on that?
Learn to defend it. One thing I've liked about the tush push is that because everybody is in close, it also gives, instead of doing the tush push, let the quarterback step back, pitch it out to a halfback who's running around the right side, and get right in there for the touchdown without any resistance. If they would take advantage of Buffalo had some opportunities, but I mean, you see, the tush the formation sets up the options and gives the offense the advantage in that case.
Max, you know who did that at the college level? Boy, DJU, when he was at Oregon State. I think it was against Washington. I think they were a dog, but one of those Thursday or Friday night games, he faked it. They all got up close and pitched it. Boom, for about 35, 40-yard touchdown run. I don't know if you remember that one, Andy. But no, the Eagles have done that, from time to time as well with some other teams. So is Chris Jones getting hurt on that play in the Super Bowl? That doesn't bring a little – or he's not as – he's one of the best at his position,
you can get hurt on any play.
Ain't no doubt.
Maybe because it happened on that type of play, you notice it a little bit more. But any play can give that. I mean, there are a lot of rules that I really don't like. Why not have 2 men in motion or something like that, like they do up in Canada? I mean, the defense still has to make the plays, and the offense. And by the way, the offense still has to execute. So. And that's not always that easy if the defense is well prepared. So I have no problem with the tush push. I mean, it is an advantage, but if you learn to defend it, look, we saw a number of teams successfully do it.
Andy, before we let you go, so these bubble teams, it's pretty much known. Is this a little added juice? Have you had success backing these teams that have a little extra juice, or is it kind of adds a little stress for some of these teams? Kind of like make me the playoff push in the NFL, you're the team that's got to win kind of deal.
It's a little different in the NCAA because normally you're talking about fairly mediocre teams looking to make a field of 68. There are 30-something conference bids, and then the balance are all the 30-something at-large bids. So you're talking about teams that might be like 16 and 11, something like that. I think, in fact, Minnesota. They're not going to be able to do it with their record. But you're talking about teams that maybe have like 9 or 10 losses and maybe 23 wins, 21 wins, something like that. I don't really use it as a handicapping factor as much as I do the situational factor. In other words, how are they coming into the game? Are they playing well? Like Minnesota's a good example we just talked about. They're playing some of their best ball down the stretch. So there's a team that's another reason for me to like them tonight because it is an important game. All the factors point that way. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to win, but I think the percentages are better on a team like that as opposed to some other teams that might just be fortunate to be in a situation where, let's say, they're in a weak conference, but they have an opportunity to win that conference. By the way, another team that I just played as a future the other day, and it's already come down a little bit, St. John's.
Great stuff as always, Andy. Follow Andy on Twitter, @VegasAndy711. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Workbox can handle all of your movable storage needs, commercial and residential. Our shipping containers come in various sizes, 8x8, 8x10, 8x20, even 8x40 feet, not just one size. These units can be customized for any use, custom lunchrooms, offices, work sites for plumbers or welders, dual purpose, part office, part storage, climate control, shelving, lighting, using different materials, whatever you need, whatever you desire. Give my buddy Martin Padial and Workbox a call at 343-4886 and WorkboxLLC.com. Live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Closing out hour number one, Rob Dosterfield at 68, top of the hour to start us off, talking some in-depth college hoops. Max, LSU takes care of business against Nicholls State in their makeup game yesterday, and some pitching news.
Yeah, 13-3 in 7 innings, which is helpful that they got the run rule there because they are shorthanded. Gavin Guidry, kind of questioned why he didn't start last night. Maybe they were saving him for Wednesday, but he's dealing with a mid-body injury. He will not pitch this week. Maybe next week we'll see him in the midweek against North Dakota State. But a bit of a loss there, so the fact that you were able to kind of limit the bullpen a little bit, hold them for this Wednesday's game against Dallas Baptist up in Globe Life in Arlington, and then you've got the tournament up in Frisco this weekend. So you did see the Catholic High freshman William Schmidt had 4.2 innings, had 3 wild pitches at the end, got roughed up and taken out for DJ Primo, but overall limited the command issues. No walks in this game, which was nice.
4 2/3 for Schmitty last night. They played in Thibodeau last night?
No, it was at home.
They switched it? Okay.
Yeah, they will play in Nicholls later this
okay. All right, top of the hour as we continue. Live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Or Oyster Night tonight, starting at 5 p.m. Oysters on a half shell, half price. And now, daily, we have boiled crawfish every day, starting at 5 p.m. as well. Mike Anderson's Lee, just off of Nicholson. Of course, Shane will be working behind the bar tonight for Oyster Night. Having some difficulties picking up with Rob Doster from Field of 68. We will have him on in just a little bit. Did some work with him for the Bet Rivers podcast in the past. So, when he was down in New Orleans for the that whole crew down in New Orleans for the Final Four a few years ago, went and spent some time with him and stuff like that. Helped him get a site where they set up their studios, their shows for the week. Let's speak about. We got him on right now. Rob, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. How are you? It's been a while.
I know, man. I'm doing real good. Let's get right to it, man, because I got a bunch of things to throw at you. First of all, Houston, Iowa State and Texas Tech. Man, we're trying to find out just how good they are, and I feel a little bit cheated. Iowa State without 31 points in their starting lineup, and Texas Tech out 30 last night. These games were competitive at different spots, but man, I'm still trying to find out if Houston's got enough. To me, Rob, they got a little bit more offensive weaponry and maybe not quite as strong defensively, but I still worry about their scoring droughts.
Yeah, let's start with Iowa State here. I think Iowa State, their ceiling is going to be limited until we find out just how healthy Taylor Lipsey actually is, right? If Taylor Lipsey is 100%, they are a really, really, really dangerous basketball team. But the problem is we don't know if he's going to be healthy. Because Sean Gilbert missed their last game, and then Curtis Jones is missing. It's so hard to know who of these Ohio State guys are actually healthy. As far as Houston is concerned, right, I adore this team, Jimmy. I think that they are a very, very real national title threat. I think that they are closer to the Auburn Duke tier than they are to the rest of the field. I don't think anybody realizes how good Milos Uzan has been. Over the course of the last 5 weeks. He has really embraced that kind of point guard role that Houston looks for. And man, he has been unbelievable. And you combine that with the shot making of LJ Cryer. LJ Cryer was terrible on last night against Texas Tech. Terrible. And Houston still won on the road. And I know that Texas Tech was kind of short-handed, but they still went on the road and beat them, man. It tells you everything you need to know about Milos Uzan and just kind of how good he has been. They got two guys that can beat you at the end of the clock, and that's not something that I think we could have said about Houston in recent seasons. Right? And then, Texas Tech, man, it's hard to know until we see them back at full strength, but Darian Williams is a dude. I really, really do like what they're getting at a chance with Millen. And I got this freshman Christian Anderson that's kind of come in and surprised people, but I'm in on Texas Tech. I think that they're probably just a notch below those top two teams in the Big 12, but, the Red Raiders play Grant McCaffrey's the coach, the guard, and J.T. Toppin. How many big guys have we seen go for 40 this year? Jimmy? Not that many. Yeah. J.T. Toppin's gone for 40.
Yeah, he was by himself last night without those other two guys. But in the same sense, Cryer hit everything from every part of the floor on Saturday when Iowa State, out of nowhere, put this run together. And it looked like they were going to be undermanned. It was on their way to be about 20, 25-point game. Next thing you know, they're fighting for their lives, and I thought he was, just inconsistent a little bit with them. So of those scoring drought concerned teams, which you thought Houston, St. John's, Tennessee, and A&M, and is that the group that you have that you worried about going through these scoring droughts where you got to rip off 6 games?
Yeah, and I think that all of them have answers that can kind of solve those problems in a sense, right? When it comes to Tennessee, I really, really like what they can do with Chaz Lanier. What happens when they get Jordan Gamey in there? What happens with Sakai League? They made an active change in the way that they kind of go out and recruit. For a while, they were just we're going to get the best defenders because this is who we want our identity to be on that end of the floor. And what they've done in probably the last two or three recruiting classes is they've just gone out and said, let's get the best scores that we can find, right? Because we can teach guys how to guard. That's what we do. We teach people how to play defense. So why are we trying to get guys that are already good at defense when that's what we're best at teaching people how to do? So I'm buying Tennessee on the nights when Chaz Lanier gets going. And they're good, man. I don't know if they're, to me, they're not quite the level of a Florida, but they're really good. And St. John's, I'll tell you this about St. John's, right? There have been 2 teams since 2012 that had made the Final Four, shooting 33.1% or below from beyond the arc. You know who those 2 teams were, Jimmy? Get ready for this. Buckle up, because it's a roller coaster ride. 2012 Louisville with Rick Pitino as the coach, and 2013 Louisville with Rick Pitino as the coach. This year, 2025 St. John's with Rick Pitino as the coach. They can't shoot, but they got Rick Pitino as their coach, Jimmy. And if you can tell me that man is coaching a team, then I don't care what their stats look. I don't care what their numbers look like. I don't care about anything. I'm buying.
Isn't that funny? Who started the heavy 3-point approach when it first came in at Kentucky. And even I saw it in Providence with Billy Donovan. I was at the Final Four in '87. So I mean, when he got them there as well. So and I think they were 0-3 against Georgetown during the season in the tournament and blasted them in a regional final that year. But Pitino, they're fun to watch. Aren't they fun to watch in that Garden too, Rob? Have you been to the game there when they're playing?
Yeah, I was there on Sunday as a UConn fan. I tell you what, it was a lot more enjoyable for the people wearing red than for the people wearing blue on Sunday. But here's the part about it, right? Is they're that good, but they got two guys in R.J. Lewis and Kadari Richmond who, no doubt about it, can go get you a bucket when you need a bucket. It's not going to be a three. We're not talking about like the most efficient shots in the world, right? But they can get you a bucket when you need a bucket. And there's something to be said about being able to know if you run a play for a guy in a close game down the stretch, he's going to find a way to be able to make sure that you score. Kadari Richmond can do that. They're going to be 8-foot pull-ups. They're not the most efficient shot in the world. The analytics are going to love them. If they go in, it's a great shot, Jimmy. So I'm in on the Giants as a real, legitimate Final Four threat.
Iowa State's been always a great place, but, watching Lubbock last night, damn. And then some of the new ones, everybody, like Auburn, Ole Miss, man, the Pavilion rocks now, man, Provo, Utah. I mean, some of the great, with all the criticism and this is wrong or this is right or all the change in college basketball seems healthy right now, Rob.
I mean, it is because you have these college towns that just love their school more than anything else, right? Like, that's what's so impressive about what Pitino's doing at St. John's is that, how hard it is to cut through the noise when you are in New York City and you have the Jets and the Giants and the Knicks and the Nets and the Rangers and the Islanders. And when you have 9 different professional sports organizations there, and you're St. John's, you've got to find a way to be able to get attention. That's not an easy thing to do, and Pitino has been able to do it. Like, when it comes to, you mentioned Ole Miss, right? Well, everybody who lives in Oxford loves the university, and they love sports. And if they're going to watch a sports team or support a sports team, more likely than not, it's going to end up being Ole Miss, right? So if you put together a good product on the floor for basketball, they are going to show up. Same thing at LSU. Same thing at Auburn. Same thing at Alabama. Like, you could turn these football schools into schools with great basketball home courts simply by making sure that you have a good product on the floor and you're going to invest in it and you give them a reason to go. And so that's why I think the SEC jobs, they got the money to spend. You're going to be able to create the fan base if you have someone that gets them engaged, and you're seeing the results pay off on the floor here.
It's funny you brought up the SEC and the Big East because I'm hearing that some of these Big East coaches have a wandering eye right now because they realize they don't have the budgets that some of these SEC or Big Ten. I mean, these neighboring conferences, the ACC has owned forever the SEC in basketball, but every recruit wants to know, what's the player budget. But every transfer portal guy, what you paying? And I mean, is the Big East, and which is those games are so much fun to watch too because they're all in at those games. Whether it's sold out every time in downtown Omaha to Butler to Xavier to St. John's. I mean, is the Big East at a little bit vulnerable right now as far as the future is concerned because of the lack of money?
I don't think vulnerable is the way that I would phrase it. But I do think that part of what makes these programs really, really good is the ability to have that funding, right? So, like, look, at the end of the day, in the SEC, you're going to have more money than you're going to have in these other conferences. But at the same time, when revenue sharing comes in, do you think that Kalen DeBoer is going to be okay if they end up splitting the money for the red shirt money that you can use 50-50 with the basketball team? Probably not. You think most of those boosters are going to be okay splitting that red shirt money 50-50 with the basketball team and the football team? Probably not. But if you're like a VCU, if you're at a Seton Hall, if you're at a UConn, where they're not necessarily as worried about football, you can put a lot more money and a higher percentage of those resources into making sure that you can fund that basketball team. So I think actually once rev share comes in and it creates a little bit of a market cap, that you're going to see some of these Big East teams be able to compete a little bit more.
Talking about coaches at St. John's and Pitino, I mean, we knew he was going to win there. He's going to set a record, bringing is it sixth or seventh team to the tournament with Boston, Providence, Kentucky, Louisville. I mean, I think it's his seventh team that he's bringing. He's going to set a record. But how good's the Indiana job? I mean, everybody since Knight has been fired. They're 6 for 6 on firing their coaches. Now, it was stupid what they fired Sampson for. He went to Final Four before and after there, but they hadn't won. They hadn't been to the finals since 2002. That was a 5 seed that went to the finals against Maryland that year, and hadn't been to the Final Four. I mean, I'm sorry, won it since '87. How good's the job? I mean, they're given a budget. Am I right? Do they have the number one player budget in the Big Ten this year? Why can't people win there?
Oh, man, that is a loaded question. That is something that's probably the million-dollar question when it comes to a lot of these teams and a lot of these programs and a lot of these coaches that are considering heading over to that job, right? I think they had their guy, right? I think Helton Sampson was their guy, and if he had stayed in Indiana, he would have won 1 or 2 championships at Indiana. I think part of what has hampered them since then is they missed on Tom Crean, who did a good job, but not a good enough job. And Tom can, he's a personality that can kind of wear people thin a little bit, right? Then you get Archie Miller in there, and Archie is not the guy for the Indiana. Like at Indiana, you have to go out in the fan base and be the face of the program. You have to be the most popular guy in Bloomington, and Arch just wants to coach. He's not a guy that's worried about promoting, that's worried about any of this other stuff other than just getting out there and coaching basketball. And then, Mike Woodson was just the wrong hire. They hired a guy that was an alum that was an NBA coach that was the wrong fit. So, to me, it's not whether or not you can win in Indiana. You can win in Indiana. You've seen win in Indiana since Bob Knight. It's a matter of, can you get somebody that is the right fit that is going to be able to win? You got to have the right personality to make it work there. And understand, the thing about Pope and Pat Kelsey to a degree that makes them so perfect for those jobs is they understand how much that basketball program means to the community and how much the community wants to feel like they are a part of that basketball program. And I don't think that Crean or Archie or Mike Woodson really understood that.
Talking about Dusty May over at Michigan, and well, yeah, we all respect his path, okay? And that was predictable. I thought that he would show a low level of appreciation for the job that Michigan provided him, and they got him extended and reworked his contract, so they got that out the way, it appears. But as I'm watching him play, and I understand that Danny Wolf is a unique talent, listed at 7 feet, 250. I got the over on the 250, by the way. But, he's like a bull in a china cabinet. Okay, he can pass for a big guy. He's a willing passer. He's a good ball handler for a big guy. But is this the best approach for Michigan, or should I have faith in Dusty May that they're just going to fine-tune this, and then if it runs at a high efficiency, it'll be tough for teams to defend because it's so unique. But when you look at the numbers, he's barely over 1-to-1 ratio, and for a team that's this good, you got to have a little bit better out of your main ball handler.
Yeah, I'm worried about Michigan's ability to avoid the turnovers. I think that's going to be their Achilles heel when they get to the tournament. And if they're not able to prevent those turnovers, they don't really have a chance to be able to make a deep run, in my opinion. I'm with you 100% on that. And I also, look, I don't like calling teams lucky, right? I think you make your own luck when it comes to winning games. But I also think that there's a little bit of an element of good fortune when you win a whole bunch of close games in a row. They played 11 straight games that were decided by 4 points or less, Jimmy. You know this as a gambler, man. At some point, that regression is going to end up coming back to the mean a little bit. So if you feel like fading Michigan in any of these spots, I think that'd be a good idea. Perfect example last night, right? Connor Recejan, one of the best shooters in the Big Ten, has a wide open three to win a game, and he bricks it. So if I was a Michigan fan, I would be very conscious of that. And I think that's why a lot of people think the likes of Michigan State and, frankly, before Sunday, Wisconsin and Purdue had a better chance to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament than Michigan did.
You look at anything tonight on tonight's card that you like?
Honestly, Jimmy, I haven't had a chance to look yet. We're heading to Vegas if you want to know what I'm doing right now, we're heading to Vegas for the Final Four for the first weekend. We're going to be out there. And I just got all the new equipment, so I have 4 cameras, a splitter, a mixer, a switcher, all of this stuff set up in my living room. And I've been messing around with 4 wires and mics and cameras all day trying to get this thing figured out.
Where are you guys going to be set up? Which sports book or casino or pool or wherever?
We will be at the Mandalay Bay, Jimmy. So if you're out there, you're going to come over and say hello?
We'll be at a sports book down on the coast, so we're doing our own thing down there as well, so locally. But yeah, man, for sure, y'all doing the Final Four again, huh?
Of course, man. We'll be down in San Antonio. Nothing better than getting to the Final Four and doing some shows. So if you're down there, you better come say hello, man. Better not be a stranger.
We'll do. And one more time, every night, Field of 68. It's on Sirius XM. It's you can on Twitter. You can charge it up as well. But you rotate the guests, and man, it's fresh. It's a post game. It's for the college basketball enthusiasts, and it's honest, genuine, uncensored opinions as well.
Uncensored. There you go, Jimmy. Look, man, great to catch up with you. Appreciate the plug.
All right. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. Rob Dauster, at Rob Dauster, Dauster on X and Twitter. So, Max, a lot to chew on there. We'll get your thoughts when we come back. Right now, remind everybody, use those. I've told you, even with that those freezes last weekend, we told you it's time to get those air conditioner checks. Again, right now the air conditioner checks over at Total Maintenance are just $79. Normally $179. So we're going to clean it. It's going to allow you to run your unit without breaking down. If you got a part that needs to be replaced, and it's going to be lower monthly bills, extend the lifetime of your unit. So you don't want it to break down then you're out for, I don't know, nobody likes in the middle of the summer for that thing to break down. That is never fun. But you know what? If it does, hey, service today, every day. Same-day service means you'll never sleep hot when you call Total Maintenance. 480-1000, one of South Louisiana's oldest and largest AC heating companies since 1980. And our new sponsor for Otter Locks at $5.50 every day as part of After Further Review with Matt Moscona. One-time AC check, normally $179, is only $79 at Total Maintenance. Live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
Remind you that we are also brought to you by Coastal Capital Advisors, your full-service financial planners. Because when it comes to retirement, there are no two solutions alike and no two situations alike. So Coastal Capital Advisors will work with you, also your business partners, your legal team, tax professionals, to make sure that all your goals are achieved. Coastal Capital Advisors will work for you, and I know for sure, as they certainly work for me. For more information, contact Philip Fontenot and his great staff at 337-981-1376 or online at coastalcapitaladv.com. Advisory services provided by New Age Advisors, LLC, doing business as Coastal Capital Advisors. Securities offered through New Age Securities, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, so good job, Rob Dauster, talking some college hoops. Max, anything catch your attention there?
Well, it was interesting hearing him talk about St. John's, talked about Michigan offensively. It kind of gets back to what we'll get to come tournament time every year, where there's a stat about how every team that wins the national title is top 25 in both offensive and defensive efficiency.
Right.
I guess my question is, how much do you put into that? Can you just straight up eliminate a team like Tennessee, who's not good enough offensively, a team like
Alabama's not good defensively,
Alabama or Kentucky, who just don't really defend very well? Are you buying into something like that, which has been proven over time to be successful, but there's only a select amount of teams that are going to be good at both, top 25 in both offense and defense. You look at Duke, Auburn, Houston, Florida, certainly all fit that criteria. But, past that, there's just not a whole lot of parity. There's one side that's stronger, A&M, way better defensively than offensively.
Well, I think A&M is going to have a stretch where they have the scoring drought, and it's going to cost them. I think Tennessee's going to have a scoring drought where it's going to cost them. I mean, they don't have a Dalton Connect. I mean, they just don't. And if they had a better draw, if they didn't catch Purdue, which is a really good team, and the officials, which were, I'm not saying it was just tightly called, and that didn't favor them. I mean, Edey must have shot 30 free throws from in that game. But the thing is, No, I think that Tennessee and A&M are not going to, and I think Alabama, because they don't play defense, is not going to be there. The one that's a little bit of a stretch is Florida. Some people count it off at 20. Now, which one are they outside the top? They're like 21 to 25.
No, they're in.
They're in.
They're top 10
I know what it is. They don't have a coach with Sweet 16 experience. Yes,
some of those trends. Yeah.
Yeah. So Golden, I don't think has a. I don't think he has a win. I think he lost to McMahon when he was at San Francisco, that overtime game, when Murray State beat him, and I think I think they were one and done last year. I know they were one and done last year, so they don't have a win. I think Florida is every bit. I think Florida might be a little bit better than Houston.
I think so too.
In Houston's top 25 offensive efficiency.
Oh yeah, they're 7 offense, 3rd defense. Houston, but
I mean, do you think they're a top 10 offensive team?
Houston, they're much better this year offensively than they are traditionally. Normally their offense lags way behind. They've caught up. They've caught up there for sure.
You think?
Houston?
Oh man, I don't know about that. I hear the numbers. Okay. I'll watch them play. No.
I'll say, if anything, looking at these numbers, they have Florida 7.
Did you watch the game Saturday? They didn't go to a stretch where they just couldn't score?
They did. There's some of these teams that they play at a slow tempo, too. So you gotta weigh that into account. Is that bad offense, or are they just slowing the game
that's
down?
why their efficiency numbers, Max, I mean, they take into account, the quality of your possession, how many times you're scoring per possession, not exactly your final score. That's why the efficiency number, the statistic is there.
That's basically what I'm separating here. I think Houston at times they slow it down, and it can kind of be misguided when you look at their offensive numbers.
You didn't think they had scoring some stretches last night where they were lacking?
Yeah, not. Look,
I know you. I don't.
Body of work.
I don't see a top 10 offensive team.
Okay.
I am sorry. I don't.
And Houston's had their struggles
I do
in the
not
tournament.
see that.
They've underachieved. I'd say overall.
Cryer, he was awesome on Saturday. He was terrible last night. You can't have that. Back and forth. They have now. I think maybe with that statistic, it's saying how much the 3-point percentage come into play, because they're pretty good on 3-point percentage, but they can really go into a funk. And I think they're better offensively. I think they had one of the worst Final Four halves in the history of the game. They had like 11 points at halftime against Baylor in the semifinal game. So I don't know. I remember, what game was it earlier this year they played, and I think they lost. It was an overtime game, and Cryer shot like 17 straight times at the end of regulation and overtime, because that's all they had. That's all they valued.
They lost to Texas Tech in overtime.
No, that was way earlier in the season.
Well, they lost to Bama and San Diego State. It would have been one of those probably in overtime.
I think it was one of those. It was one of the. I think it might have been
back in November.
Alabama was overtime, huh?
Yes,
that was the one.
That was the game.
That was
85-80.
I mean, you look back at that play chart, and it was Cryer. I mean, the guy could barely get up the court when Sampson was leaning on him so
much. I just think, y'all talked about St. John's. You talked about it with Troy yesterday, and y'all don't think they can ultimately get home. I guess my thought is, we have these efficiencies. We have these trends that eliminate a lot of teams, and then you end up with only 2 or 3 teams. How many teams could I give you before you didn't take the field anymore? If I gave you Duke and Auburn, would you take Duke and Auburn versus the field to win the national title?
No.
If I threw in Florida, would you take those 3?
That would be a consideration.
I think that's kind of the line.
See, I like the SEC against the field.
That's a lot of teams, though.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot of good teams.
That's 12 teams.
You take out Duke and Houston, I guess.
I mean, you got 1, 2s, and 3s. Or just protected seeds. How many you got? You gonna have about 9.
Yeah. I would take the SEC too. But I think it's curious when you take the top of the board. I think of St. John's. I think of an Iowa State. I think of a Michigan State, the way they're playing right now. They have a chance if things fall right for them. And I think, the tournament is is a crapshoot sometimes, and so even though a lot of times the cream rises to the crop at the end, but I think if you gave me three teams in Duke, Auburn, and Florida, I'd probably take those three over the field. But there's enough teams. There's enough teams there outside that would make it a real conversation, I think.
It would. I would probably need one more. I'd probably need Houston to convince me. I'd take those four.
Do you normally think a one seed's going to win? Because I mean that's basically what you're saying.
I mean,
when it comes down to it, one of the four
one
seeds
for a reason. I mean, they're a stronger team. So, I mean, I think Auburn, who's the number one team, is clearly the number one. We know about their defense, we know about their depth, their athleticism, but they also got they will adapt to defenses. Their offense is pretty sophisticated. They run a lot of things, especially in transition. And then they got a guy that's very comfortable with his back to the basket when they need a bucket in Janae Broom. And they got a lot of ways to score. And I mean, I think that they're just so much more complete. They're deep. They're well coached. They have a coach that is very comfortable in the tournament in his style, even though they got beat in the first round of last year. They were terrible in that game. When a team slows it down, but man, they can bring their pressure to where I think they can get a team out of just slowing the game down, like Yale did last year. And Auburn had a big lead in that game too. They were up double digits. I don't know exactly how late it was, but they had a big lead.
I'd have to limit you to three teams, Jimmy. 6 of the last 7 teams have been one seeds. So if I give you 4.
6 of the last 7?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
The last champions have been one seeds. The one outlier, number 4, UConn, 2 years ago.
The first one.
Yes.
Yeah.
UConn, funny enough, actually,
So
there's been a lot of one
won. Baylor was the one against
2021, right after the COVID.
Right.
You had Kansas in 2022.
Kansas was the one that came up. North Carolina wasn't. That was a little bit of a surprise. What were they? The runner-up. They had a big lead.
Yeah,
they had like 17-point lead.
I don't remember what seed they were in that game. But, it's been a while. 2016 Villanova was a 2 seed. UConn's actually had a lot of success outside of a 1 seed. They 3 of the last 4
Shabazz Napier is the one that, with these metrics where you're trying to do offensive and defensive efficiency, a coach with Sweet 16 experience, they're the one that they throw everything out.
So there have only been 4 non-1 seeds to win the national title since 2007, and UConn was 3 of them. 2011 they were a 3 seed, 2014 they were 7 and 1, and then 2023, as I mentioned, they were 4. So there are not a whole lot of 1 seeds that don't win the national title. And so, I think we'd have to take 3 teams versus the field. That'd be the fairest way to kind of break apart the field, if you will.
Don't forget our friends at Relief Windows. If your homeowners association requires wood windows, well, we've got them for you. Wood windows, a look that lasts. Windows offer timeless style and generally regarded as the most aesthetically pleasing of all wood window materials. Added efficiency of wood frame provides great natural insulation. Pair that with the quality and durability of gelled winds or last wood, and you won't need to worry about replacing your windows again for a very, very long time. And also a lifetime warranty. We guarantee you complete satisfaction for years to come and provide the highest quality service and craftsmanship around. They look great. They are functional. Got a nice day, open it up, easy to open and close them without any problems. I've had the problem with some of the other windows. And also, again, I wish I had these windows originally with the original construction of my home. I wouldn't have had to replace them after 10 or 12 years. Call for an assessment today. They'll send out somebody with a computer. They'll do a rendering, kind of shape it to your liking. Order it, comes in, schedule a time for installation. Be there on time, clean up just the whole thing. But first class quality products and installation and service. Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com, 230-5652. Live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's Tuesday night. It's half off. Oysters on the half shell at Mike Anderson's at 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
The Thibodaux Store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. Your home improvement specialist. You say, what do I know about doing home improvements, man? I'm no carpenter. I'm not good at any of that stuff. Well, let the experts at the Thibodaux Store show you how easy it is to save on some of these smaller projects that you can do, that they can walk you through step by step. You won't be wasting time and money. You won't be wasting money on materials you don't need or on procedures that don't work. So let the Thibodaux Store help you out there. Ask their experts to tell you exactly what course to proceed on. Hand tools, power tools, plumbing supplies, electrical supplies, and also specialty items at the Thibodaux Store. Tons of grills, including the Big Green Egg cookers, Cypress furniture, lots of fishing equipment, crawfish, and jambalaya pots. The sister property, the Pierre Part Store in Pierre Part, just celebrated their 113th year anniversary. So check them out. And online where delivery is free at ThibodauxStore.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, so Max, we dropped the podcast. Me and Paul Stone look at Tuesday and Wednesday's college basketball action and give out our best bets for tonight and tomorrow night. Tell them where to find it.
Yeah, wherever you get your podcast, Sports Better's Paradise, and also on YouTube. That's been a popular way to consume it as of late. Sports Better's Paradise on YouTube. Just look it up. You'll find it. You and Paul just dropped within the last hour. So all the plays for tonight and tomorrow night. And we'll have another episode dropping on Thursday for the weekend games.
All right. Well, let's see. But the NBA, boy, they betting the Lakers like it's here it is. The big trade. The big trade. Lakers and Mavericks. They're on this one. They were putting out Super Bowl props, cross-sports props on this one. Chiefs versus Luka's points in this game. And minus 5.5. Humans laid 5.5. So he needs Luka to score 28 tonight. Kansas City, a lot of garbage points. That thing could have been really easy tonight. But everybody all over the Luka props over, and let's see where they
He's got some value. 31.5 is this point total.
31.5?
So that's what it is right now. That's certainly inflated. He averages about 26.5, somewhere in there. So there's some built-in respect. They know they're going to get hit with overs with him, but I certainly understand it. He's got a point to prove. He's hungry. He wants to stick it to Dallas for sure.
Over 32 now is, over 32 is minus 15 now at the Queen at DraftKings. My gosh. Over 30, you got to lay 160. Man, this is a square festival tonight for this thing. What is let me see what the tickets on Luka.
Points, rebounds, assist over 48.5 for Luka. It's a lot. That's what is his triple double? Let me find that one out. That it's the squarest of square plays, but I circled this honestly. I said no matter how high it gets, I'm probably going to take the overs. It just seems I don't think they can weigh it high enough. He has the biggest point to prove, the biggest chip on his shoulder. They outwardly and publicly humiliated him for his work ethic. So this is a chance for him to say, you know what, here's my work ethic.
Fair.
Shove it out your butt,
78% of the tickets on the Lakers minus 9.
Plus 290 for a triple-double for Luka. I'm not saying that. I will take maybe some honestly, Jimmy, maybe you'll have a stance on this. One thing to take his over on points, 31.5, but don't you think if he does get there, it's going to be like maybe well over? Maybe he makes the real point, and maybe you, instead of taking the 31.5 over, right, maybe you just take 40-plus points at plus 320. Because if he gets there, maybe he's just raining on their parade and he actually gets well over. They call them ladders, right, where you take the over at each level. Maybe you just go a little bit higher up the ladder and take the over 40. If there's really a point to prove, then maybe he gets there easier.
You bet a little bit at each one. That's what they call a ladder. It's not just taking an alternate line. Ladder means you're taking it there at 30, 35. Yeah, the whole thing. But it'd be like in golf, you're taking outright, top 5, top 10, top 20. I mean, same type of thing. You, I guess. I mean, there's no doubt they fired at him publicly. There's a lot of things that they ended up. So maybe this is an outlier. Maybe this one is that. Yeah. I mean, well, you better get on it now. It ain't going down. I can promise you that. So
nobody's back there buying back.
And LeBron will. And I don't think they're super threatened by Dallas in this matchup, so they can maybe compromise a little bit and just let him do his thing. And I've been in buildings before when somebody wants to get an individual accomplishment in the NBA. They get it.
J.J. Redick just retired, former player. Maybe he wants to, give him his as well. Because it's got to be a full sort of team effort. The coach has to be on board a little bit.
LeBron runs the show. Okay, LeBron hired J.J. Redick, okay? And LeBron, I could see him totally deferring and letting Luka get his 50 tonight,
I'm just trying to figure out what's
how many
the way
minutes
to go
can he
at this?
play? I mean, there's no minutes restriction anymore when he first came back with the injury. But, I mean, how he still – is he all the way full strength as far as his conditioning? Probably not quite.
He's ramped it up. Let me see minutes wise. He had 31 minutes in his last game against the Nuggets. Okay. So if you get that out of him, he had 32 points in his last game.
To get some of these point Max, you're going to have to play more than 31 minutes.
He had 32 points in 31 minutes against the Nuggets in his last game.
That's a lot to ask.
That was
a point a minute's a lot.
That was his high for the Lakers. He hasn't scored over 20. Up until that point. So this is definitely inflated. There is no doubt. We will not argue that it is inflated, but I mean
it might still, I mean,
does he start early? I mean, just looking at him here, 10 plus points in the first quarter for Luka is minus money. He's got to get double-digit points in the first quarter alone. Right out of the gates. Minus 130. 10 plus in the first quarter. I don't know what the best way to attack this is, but I will be on the over in
about
some
7-8
capacity.
minutes in the first quarter.
Yeah, I would say when I watched that first Jazz game when he first was with the Lakers, he probably got subbed out about 8 minutes.
That's his first game.
But he didn't play that much later in the game. They kind of gave him an extended stint early.
I know,
so
but he was on a minutes restriction then.
Correct.
Okay, so
but he still made it about 7-8 minutes into the first quarter before they subbed him out.
He should
I'd
have
expect
at least
something like that. Yeah, you're getting 8 minutes out of the gates. Does he get 10 points there? I don't know. I don't know what the best way to do this. Jimmy, you may know better than me, but I would take the over in some capacity.
I'm just watching this one.
Okay.
Believe it or not, because I'm not gonna. Max, you say we're in the room and we're setting a number, okay? Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is one, laying a number with the Lakers, and two, betting the Luka props over. I mean, did you just want to give money away? You're on a promotion if you just want to give it away.
It's 4.5 higher than normal, probably. It is inflated quite a bit, without a doubt. They're not even hiding it. There's no. I'm curious where the sharp money would come in on the under. At what point does somebody come in on the under? That's not what they opened
it. It's been bet to that. And they're getting flooded, so it is moving up. I think it was right at 30.
There's got to be somebody who's just waiting to take the under, though. There's some group out there that has to take it under at some point.
Well, you're limited on the prop bets too. So how much can some sharp action come back? And I don't think this is where the sharps kind of stay away.
Okay.
I don't think this is a massive one. You're limited. I mean, this is not like a high volume playoff game, NFL game, primetime game, or an Ohio State Michigan regular where they can take where your limit's that strong. There's no way they're going to take. I mean, the limits on this. I mean, unless you whoever booked the LSU Alabama baseball game last year or whatever that was a year or two ago. I mean, there's you can only so much buyback. The volume is going to flood your brand. Nobody, zero. from Natchez to Biloxi to the Queen to Vegas. Nobody needs Luca's under tonight.
Reach out to me if you're taking Luca under. I want to hear about.
No. I'm not.
I want anybody out there. I want to hear who has the under.
I like to buy back, but you mean your ground is legitimate, but he's gotta. It's just they put it high to begin with, okay, and then it's gone even higher, and it's not done moving, because every time Dick and Harry, I mean, what is it? Oh, he's scoring 50 tonight. He could. You better, if you're going to play it, you better play it now. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to talk about chalk early, this is the ultimate chalk.
Let me open up the DK app right now.
Is it not the ultimate chalk?
I can't think of a better example of chalk.
I mean, chalk early dogs like this last night was the time to play it. I wonder can you see what it opened up?
Props is going to be hard to find. I'm not sure that I can find it now.
There we go. We'll take a time. I will come back and wrap things up. Don't forget, over here at Mike Anderson's tonight, starting at 5 p.m., it is oysters on the half shell or half price, starting at 5 p.m. And also now daily is boiled crawfish available at Mike Anderson's, starting at 5 p.m. every day that we're open through the crawfish seasons. Come back and wrap things up live at lunch, live at Mike Anderson's, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Yanni from Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee Drive on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And it'll be back tomorrow. Kind of an interesting little stretch here for the LSU baseball team, and that this is the obvious teeth of their non-conference schedule. So we had our discussions about what Coach Johnson is trying to what he's trying to do, because this is you got to go out of your way to get some of the non-conference schedule that's this week. So, but Dallas Baptist is been a consistent player. They've never been to Omaha, but they have hosted regionals. They've been a national seed before. I think they've been a national seed. I think they've been a top 8. They may have been just a regional host. I know they went to one super, but they have not been to Omaha. But they're going to have a much better team. They put a little money into that program. They're a much stronger program than what LSU has faced to this point. And then you got 3, and it's not exactly murderer's row, with Kansas State, Nebraska, and Sam Houston. Oh, they're way better. I think Nebraska's supposed to be pretty good this year.
Not bad. They typically are a tournament team.
But this year, I heard that they might be not typically a tournament team.
No.
No.
They're somewhere around
every year.
3 and 4, I think, if I remember.
So that'll be tomorrow. We'll have Handy back. He's just got one day off. Tomorrow we'll be at Snow's Seafood and Steak. Again, want to thank our folks over here at Mike Anderson's. Oysters on the half shell tonight half price, and boiled crawfish starting at 5 p.m. Hunt Palmer up next right here, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.